Welcome to day 6 of Python Bootcamp. In this video, we will discuss what is if-else, how to write a code for multiple conditions, what is nested if, and we'll do practical examples on all of them. And then we'll discuss common beginner mistakes. And at the end of this video, I'll also give you a mini challenge so that you practice this concept and understand it in a better way. Now, let us start with what is if-else. So it is the core of decision making in Python. Just like you take decisions based on the condition or the situation, right? You decide whether you should carry an umbrella or not, checking the weather, right? Or checking the situation. If it's raining, you carry an umbrella, else you decide not to carry an umbrella, right? So just like that, Python make decisions based on conditions. So there with our first example where there is a variable age whose value is 20. So this code is to check the eligibility to vote. So what is the eligibility of the vote? That someone should be, at least 18 or more than 18. So first of all, we'll write if the age of the person is more than or equal to 18. So this is like the syntax of if condition, that you should always end your condition with a colon. And the moment you press enter, you see the cursor is automatically taking you here and not here. That's because it follows the indentation. Okay, so following the indentation is also the part of syntax. And if you don't follow this indentation, it is going to throw you an error. So what do we want to say? That if someone is more than 18, we want to say that they are eligible to vote. Right? That's it. Now this line gets executed only if this condition is true. And right now our age is more than 20 and this condition is true. And that's why this line should be executed, and there you go. So this line got executed because our condition was true. But what if the condition doesn't go true and if the age is just 2? So this is not satisfying the condition now. Like age is less than 18, that is 2. So because this condition is false, this statement doesn't get executed. Now, if someone is not following the indentation, like I'm simply printing a line hello just to show you what happens if you don't follow the indentation. So whatever line is not following the indentation is not the part of if condition, and it is not dependent on this condition being true and false. It will always get executed. Like right now, you see this condition is not getting satisfied, right? It is not true. The age is not more than 18. So this line will not get executed because it is completely dependent on this condition to be true. But the last line, which is print hello, gets executed irrespective of this condition being true and false. So this is why you should always make sure that you always write something inside the indentation which belongs to the if condition, right? But what if I put this inside the indentation now? So you see, this line also doesn't get executed because this condition is not being satisfied. This condition is not true, and both of them are inside the if condition, so they both doesn't get executed. Okay. Now, what if you want to write the other scenario of this? Like, what if this condition doesn't get satisfied? We told what should happen if the condition gets satisfied. But what if this condition doesn't get satisfied? So in that case, we'll use else. So, just like we say that if it's raining, carry an umbrella, else don't carry an umbrella. So, we are telling Python that if this condition gets true, execute this line, else go for another statement, which is you are not eligible to vote. So we used to get an output only if this condition goes true, right? But now, as we have added else, we are telling that if this condition goes false, then this line should be executed. So we get output in both the scenarios, even if the condition goes true and false. But right now, as it is not satisfying the condition of age being more than 18, so it says that you're not eligible to vote. Okay, but if I add another age to it, where the first condition is being satisfied, where the age is more than 18, so the first line gets executed. Okay, now let us understand how to write multiple conditions, how to add multiple conditions. Like you decide the grade of the student in a school based on the marks, right? You check the marks of the student and then you decide what grade the student should be getting and what remarks you should be giving, right? So let us first create a variable of marks, because marks is the variable, or marks is one of the thing we are checking for, uh, giving grades or deciding the grade of the student. So you can either take it as an input or you can simply give it a value as well. So let us take it as an input so that we can check it for all the conditions. So here, because we are working on numbers, we are expecting our input to be an int, and we're asking the user to enter marks. Then, after taking marks, we first check, if the marks are more than or equal to 90. So in this case, we decide that the student gets the grade A. Now, the other condition is if the marks are between 90 and 70. So because it's like other condition we are checking, so we are doing else if, right? So we write as elif in Python. It means else if, like else this happens. That is if your marks are less than 90 and also your marks are more than or equal to 70. That means your marks are somewhere between 70 and 90. In that case, you give the student as grade B. Okay, so this is like we are deciding what grade the student gets based on the marks the student has scored. Now, the other condition we have is marks are less than 70 and also the marks are more than or equal to 50. So in this case, the student gets grade C. Now, the other condition we'll do is the marks being between 50 and 30. So, this is again another condition. We'll write elif here. So, marks less than 50, but also the marks are greater than or equal to 70. Sorry, 30. That means if your marks are somewhere between 30 and 50, the student gets grade D. But anything less than that, it's like the student fails. So we are declaring fail for anything except these. So because we have written the condition for everything from 30 to 90, so else will check that if your marks are, apart from 30 or at least less than 30, then it will print fail. Okay. So your first condition should always be if, then all the conditions in between will be elif, more like else if this happens, and your last condition will be else. So what happens here is it checks the first condition. If it is satisfied or if it is true, then this line gets executed. You will get an output as grade A. But if this is not true, it checks the next condition. And if it is true, this line gets executed as an output. You get this line, and if in case this condition is also not true, it will move to the next condition. It check this condition. If this condition is true, it will give you an output as grade C. Then it moves to the next condition. If in case this gets true, it will print grade D. And if in case any of these conditions are not true, like if your marks are nowhere between 90 or 70 or 50 or 30, in that case, it is going to print you fail. So let us try this. Let us try all our conditions. So if your marks are more than 90, you see you get the grade as A. Now, what if your marks are between 70 and 90? Let us give 85. So you see it is printing grade B. Then if your marks are between 50 and 70, more like 65, so grade C is the output. And if your marks are somewhere in between 30 and 50, the grade D. And if none of these conditions gets true, and if you give marks less than this, that is 25, it's more like fail. So this is how multiple conditions are checked in Python. Okay, so I'll put all of this into a comment line now as we are moving to the next part, which is nested if. So now we are understanding what is nested if. So nested if is when you have one of the if conditions inside another if conditions. Okay. Now there is already a condition being checked, and now you also want another condition to be checked inside it. So one condition inside another condition is called as nested if. Okay, so let us understand this with an example. So you have a variable username whose value is admin, or you can give any value to it. Then you also need to check the password here. So we have another variable as password whose value is 1234. Now, only if the username has been entered as admin and the password has been entered as 1234, then only we are allowing the user to log in successfully. So what happens here is first it checks the username. Okay, and if the username is matching with admin, then only it moves to the next condition where it is supposed to check the password. So you see, there was already one if condition. Now we are adding another if condition inside it where we want to check the value of password, which should be 1234. So what happens here is only if the first condition gets true, then only it checks for password. If it is not true, then it is not going to move forward to check your password. So first, your username should be matching, and then if your password is also matching, then the line is getting executed as your login was successful. And if this is not the case, if your password was not correct, then we say that incorrect password or wrong password. So you see, this if and this else is following one indentation. So this if is true, then this line gets executed. And if this line condition is not true, then this else will be executed. But we also have one of the if which we have written earlier for checking username. So following the same indentation of that particular if, we are writing else. So because this if and else are following the same indentation, so if this if doesn't gets true, then it goes for this else where we want to say that invalid username. Okay, now let us check if this works. So yeah, so we have already given our username as admin and our password was also given as 1234. And because they both are, satisfying the conditions, our output is login successful. Now let us say that if in case our username was given as admin and we wanted to check it as only admin. So because they are not matching, it says invalid username. So it just checked our username and it was not matching. It did not move to the next condition of asking your password or checking your password. So this is how nested if works. So let us do another example, which is mostly like a bank withdrawal. So there is a variable balance whose value is 5,000. That means your account balance is 5,000. And there is a variable withdraw, which is showing how much amount someone wants to withdraw. Okay. So the withdrawal can be successful or the withdrawal can be unsuccessful, right? So we want to check that if your withdrawal amount was less than or equal to balance. So in this case, you will be able to withdraw, right? Because you just want to withdraw the amount which you already have. That means your withdrawal is less than the balance. Now, if this condition gets true, then it checks for another condition that your withdrawal amount should be more than zero at least. Okay, if your amount is less than zero, it's like you cannot withdraw it, right? So in that case, you are printing transaction successful. And if this condition is not satisfied, that means if your withdrawal amount was less than zero, we say that it was an invalid amount. That means you can't withdraw anything less than zero, invalid amount. So we have written if and else for this condition where your withdrawal amount should be more than zero, but we haven't written else for this condition where your withdrawal should be less than balance. So if your withdrawal amount is not less than the balance amount, in that case, we are writing insufficient balance because you can't withdraw the amount which you don't have, right? So in that case, we will write insufficient balance. Let us move on to common beginner mistakes. So I think we have discussed a few of them. That is, first of all, is not following the indentation, and the other one is not following the syntax. So mostly like, if you want to check if x is more than 5, in that case you want to print yes. Okay. But here you're not following the indentation. Then in that case you're going to get an error. So this is the most common mistake most beginners make. And so the another common mistake most people make is in nested if. So here you have outer if and then you have inner if, right? So the indentation of your inner if should always match with the indentation of your inner else. Whereas your indentation of outer else should always match with the indentation of your outer else. And if this is not happening, like this else, if you're writing it here, and if this happens, it is also going to give you an error. So you mostly have to take care of indentations in if conditions and also about the syntax where your if condition should always end with a colon. Yeah, that's the challenge I have for you is you have to predict the output of this code. So this is a nested if, so it is quite tricky for you to guess the output of it. So guess the output and check if. Now let me run to check if you have predicted the output correct. So the output is medium here because the value of x was given as 15 and the first condition we checked was if x is more than 10. So as it is following this condition, as it is satisfying this condition, it moves to the inside condition where it should satisfy the condition where x should be more than 20. And because this condition is not being true, then it moves to the else part where we are printing medium. Okay, so if it was not satisfying this condition itself, if the value was just 5 itself, then the line small should be executed. So let us run this, and in this case we should get the output as small. So yeah, we got the expected output. So I hope now you understand how Python thinks, decides, and reacts. So in the next video, we will build real programs using if-else plus operators. So subscribe if you're serious about learning Python properly.